Yes, we're back already. My goodness me, more football. Week 4, Premier League, Saturday results show. We've got 4 matches for you. I'm going to run through them really quickly. First one, opener, was at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea at home to Crystal Palace. Palace, virtually the same side. That's what I saw anyway. But for Chelsea, Chilwell in at left back. I think that's his first Premier League start since his transfer. Azpilicueta was placed on the right back role, and Abraham joining Werner up front for the Blues. Mount was rested on the bench though, and Pulisic, who's returning from injury, he was also next to him on the bench. For Crystal Palace, worth mentioning that the club captain Mihajlovic on the bench, but struggling to get in the side. First half, well, I have to say I watched all of this, and it was a pretty drab first half. Chelsea dominated possession, but they couldn't get that clinical, cutting-edge pass forward to their front man. Havertz and Werner ran about a lot. 18 minutes Gaeta saved from Werner, but it was a pretty timid effort. Palace, well, they were seemingly in the mode that let's get a goalless draw here, because they just did not show any inclination in the attacking front at all, and were quite happy with men behind the ball. But Chelsea's passing movement, a bit slow, a bit predictable. Abraham did have a chance on 38 minutes when Jorginho looped the ball into him, but the ball was blasted and the keeper manages to get it away. So it was goalless at the break, but things changed radically in the second half. 49 minutes. Chilwell, who looked impressive down the left wing, overlapping. Mind you, he just didn't have anybody to mark, so he was basically a left winger. He arrived at the far post after some neat intricate passing, and Sacco failed to clear the ball, managed to get it to Chilwell, who was running in, and he hit a stormer of a shot, and it whizzed past Gaeta, and that was 1-0 for Chelsea. Well, that sort of opened the door, really. Ayew did have a shot, but when he got in where Chilwell should have been marking him. But Mendy, a word about him. He's the new goalkeeper that Chelsea have bought from Rennes, because Kepa is just not really providing what they need. 65 minutes then, Zuma heading in second from a great cross by Chilwell again, and they looked like they were really in the driving seat, but that side 2-0 to the Blues. Odoi looking quite good on the right wing, got to the byline, and header from Abraham just wide. Anyway, 2 late goals by Chelsea, both from the penalty spot, both converted by Jorginho, meant that it was a pretty easy run to the finish line for Chelsea. There was a bit of a squabble about the second penalty on 80 minutes after Havertz was tripped by Saka. Abraham got the ball and wanted to take the penalty, but the captain, Azpilicueta, stepped in and got the ball back to Jorginho, and he converted. So a pretty easy day at the office in the end for Lampard. Clean sheet as well. Final score, Chelsea 4, Crystal Palace 0. So next up, it's the league leaders, Everton. Yeah, I'll repeat that again for Everton fans. The league leaders, Everton. They're at the top of the pile at the moment. They had Sigurdsson and Gomez back. For Brighton, Lallana was rested on the bench. Busima was back after that red card in the I think 2 games back, and it was him, Musema, who managed to give the ball away. We'd only had a minute on the clock, and Calvert-Lewin, who's been hot to say the least, his strike was pushed away by Ryan. That was a prelude to 15 minutes. A free kick from Sigurdsson was clipped in at the back post, and Calvert-Lewin's header, too good for Ryan, 1-0 Toffees. But then Brighton rebounded, and on 40 minutes, Mopé made the most of an error by Pickford. How many times have we talked about an error by Pickford? And it followed good work by Trossard, and his shot into the ground, and Pickford made a right mess of it, and Mopé cleaned up, and then we were level 1-1. Not for very long though. In added time, it was a free kick from James, who was sort of running the show for Everton really. He managed to find Mina in the box, and he managed to find the net, and so into the half-time break, and the Toffees up 2-1. Second half, a lovely goal by James on 51. He clips it home after some great work by Iwobi, and that was following possession being lost by Trossard. So 3-1 to Everton. Some more poor play by Pickford, but they managed to get away with it. And then James got his second following a Decore cross from the left. Again, Iwobi involved in the feed to Decore, but James converted with aplomb really. That was 4-1 to Everton. Brighton did manage to get a consolation goal into added time, and it was a real cracker from that Basumi. He makes a habit of getting impressive goals. This was from outside the box. It whistled past Pickford. No chance for the keeper this time. But that was it. Another impressive outing from Ancelotti's men. They stayed top of the table, and they won this game at Goodison Park by 4-2. Okay, Ellen Road's the venue, and this is Leeds at home to Manchester City. Leeds, impressive start really. They've only been beaten by the champions, and that was only by the odd goal. They bounced back and looking really good value. Man City's start has been less than impressive, and they got rolled over at home last week by Leicester. So anticipation about this game. I didn't see much of this game, brief highlights, but I've heard great things about it being an end-to-end game with lots of chances, lots of good entertainment. So my report will probably not fully give you a picture of that, because I only saw brief highlights. Leeds' record signing Rodrigo, he was on the bench, and for City, a couple of new faces, Diaz alongside Laporta in defence, and Torres up front alongside Sterling. Of course, they're still without Jesus and Aguero. Bernardo Silva was on the bench, and Akai was also rested. He was on the bench. Early action, and De Bruyne on 3 minutes caused Meslier, the Leeds goalkeeper, a bit of a headache. He caught him sleeping really, and it hit the post, and lucky for Leeds. Then we had a Costa header from an Ayling cross on 13, but it went way over. City eventually went in front, and it was an individual effort by Raheem Sterling. He picked the ball up some way from goal. He managed to evade a couple of tackles and sneak the ball wide of the keeper, and so that was 1-0 for City. 36 minutes, Edison managed to thwart a Dallas effort. Good move by Leeds though. And then into added time, an overlap from Ayling and caused a little bit of consternation, but Edison managed to get in the way to block it. 1-0 at the break then, and second half, and Leeds were certainly going for it. Rodrigo was brought on, and he made an instant impact. He hit the bar on 57 minutes, and then a minute later he turned it in from a couple of yards after Edison made a real mess of a cross. He managed to drop it in the 6-yard box, and Rodrigo was sharp 1-1. A fair share of half chances by both sides for City. They brought on Bernardo Silva, but it ran out about even, really. Full-time score, Leeds 1, Man City 1. I was quite intrigued by the post-match interview because Guardiola spent virtually all the time in the interview ringing the praises of Bielsa, and hardly made any comment about his own team performance. He obviously has some sense of adulation for this Argentinian, and probably the score reflected that. He's certainly doing a good job. So final score at Ellen Road was Leeds 1, Manchester City 1. Last of the Saturday fixtures then, St James's Park, Newcastle home to Burnley. Burnley haven't managed any points so far this season. Newcastle, as usual, a bit hot and cold, but they managed to squeeze a draw out of Spurs. Anyway, team news, St Maximin was back. He was injured for that game, and Shah was in the starting lineup. Hendrick, of course, playing against his old club, and Linton and Wilson up front. For Burnley, Tarkowski was back for Burnley, so that's a good news for their defence. And Barnes, we haven't seen him for a long time. He had a really bad injury. He was selected to play alongside Wood up front for Burnley. And it was Burnley early on. 5 minutes, McNeil tested Darlow from distance on the left. And then on 12 minutes, Pope made a right hash of a cross, and Wilson effort went just wide. So they escaped Burnley on that occasion. But they couldn't do anything about what happened after that. St Maximin running from inside Burnley's half. He absolutely jinking his way through, mesmerising the defence. They were obviously afraid that if they caught him, they'd give away a free kick. And eventually he slotted it wide of Pope in the Pope's left corner, and that was 1-0 to Newcastle. Wilson should have put them 2 up on 29 when he headed a Shelvey cross just wide. That was it at the break, 1-0. Burnley came out though with a positive attitude. Barnes got to the byline, got across. Wood forced a sharp save from Darlow. And on 60 minutes, Westwood equalised for Burnley. This was following some ping-pong around the box after a cross from Barlow was cleared to him, and it whistled past Darlow, and that was 1-1. It wasn't long though before that Frenchman, St Maximin, once again causing havoc on a jinking run, and he managed to get a neat cross in, and Wilson got a yard on the defender and jabbed it home for 2-1. Newcastle then certainly in the ascendancy here, and on 75 minutes the Burnley keeper Pope, who was having a rare off day, his poor touch led to Fraser nipping in, and then Pope collided with Fraser, and it was a clear penalty, and Wilson stepped up to get his brace, and Newcastle had the points. So a depressing start for Dyche. Burnley still without a win, but Steve Bruce encouraged by this performance, and the final score at St James's Park was Newcastle 3, Burnley 1.